This scripture this morning, the first is from Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 9. The call of Abram. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages toward Negeb. Our second reading is Psalm 121. Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who has made heaven and earth. He will not let you be moved. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep you, your going out and your coming in, from this time on and forevermore. May God bless these words to our understanding.
In the verses just before the end of chapter 11, We're told after a lengthy bit of genealogy, which leads us from Noah to Abram, that Abram's father, Terah, had taken Abram and the rest of his family, and they had left Ur of the Chaldeans and headed off toward a new land called Canaan, got as far as Haran, and they stopped. And they stayed there for a while. While they were there, Terah dies. And it appears that maybe the rest of the family does too, because by this point all we hear about are Abram and Sarai and their nephew Lot. And after some time, where apparently they've been doing well, they've acquired animals, they've acquired people. The word of God comes to Abram and says, okay, it's time to go again. Get up, pack everything, and leave. Leave behind everything you've ever known. Leave behind this place where you've become comfortable and established. And I will give you a new land, and your descendants will bless the whole world. It's a bit of a problematic promise, because Abram is 75. And he has exactly no children. And the promise includes the world being blessed by his descendants. And it will be another 25 or so years before the promised child arrives. It's a problematic promise because the land to which he's being sent, well, it's that one little verse, one little line in what Martha read. At that time, the people of Canaan were already living there. It was a throwaway. And it's not like 4,000 years later we're still dealing with that little throwaway line about the people who were still living there and the people who moved in to claim it, and it's the story of human nature across the globe. But that's the promise. That's why Abram packs up and goes, because not only does God tell him to, but God promises these things will happen. I think we continue to live with a God who keeps telling us to get up and go because of the promise of good things that will follow. I've often wondered, because it's one of those things I do. Abraham gets home and tells the rest of his household, we're leaving. Pack up. What did you say? We're doing what now? Pack up, we're leaving. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you're established and you've acquired animals, you've acquired people, you're making a name for yourself, to just pack up and go for some nebulous promise of what might happen, which includes the promise of descendants, and you don't even have one child. It's hard to have descendants when you don't even have one child. Get up and go. But he does. And the journey is not easy. The path forward is not straightforward. We sort of skip here, and he gets in Canaan, and he starts building altars, and then he goes to Egypt because there's a famine. And then he comes back, and then he goes to Egypt again, and then he comes back. Eventually the child comes. In between, there's a child with a slave girl who also becomes the father of a nation. It's not a straightforward story from get up and go to great descendants and here's your land. But still, Abram keeps going. Sometimes he questions the promise. Sometimes he and Sarah wonder, okay, we're now 100, and we still don't have a child. This has got to be some kind of a cruel joke. But they keep going, and they keep hoping. It's the beginning of our faith story. I know it's not the beginning of the Bible, but in many ways it's the beginning of our faith story. Because at this point, God says, I'm going to create. I'm going to create this special people, this promised people through whom the world will be blessed. And as Ralph Milton said in his telling of the story, in his intro to the story, the three peoples of the book, the peoples who follow Islam, the people who follow Christianity, and the people who follow Judaism, all consider Abraham, whose story begins when God says, "Get up and go," to be their spiritual ancestor. As descendants, spiritual descendants of Abraham and Sarai, we too are invited to get up and go, because we follow the one who walked up to a bunch of people at the lakeshore and said to them, "Leave behind your nets." Jesus saw them fishing by the shore of Galilee, casting out their nets into the sea. Simon, Peter, Andrew, and John, and the sons of Zebedee, waiting in their boat so patiently. And he said, "Oh, come and follow me. Leave behind your nets, I tell you, come and fish with me, and your life will never be the same again." The same one who repeatedly tells his followers, "If you want to follow me, deny your very self. Take up your cross and walk the walk with me." This might seem a hardship, an impossibility, but nothing is impossible with God. Oh, come and follow me, and your life will never be the same again, which I've always thought is either promise or threat. Get up and go, and your life will never be the same again, but something wonderful will follow. We are continually challenged as we seek to follow the way of Christ, to get up and go and leave things behind. It may not be pack up everything you own and wander off in search of a land that you're not really sure where it is, and there's already people living there. But we are constantly challenged to leave things behind. We are constantly challenged to understand what new thing God is doing in the world around us and how we are invited to take part. We are a pilgrim people. We are a people who aren't called to just find that comfortable place and stay there, because God is continually transforming the world around us. And so we're invited to get up and go. There's an exercise which I still might do with council one of these days if I can find my notes about exactly how it works. The idea is you put at one end of the line an anchor. And the hymn for that end of the line is, "Will your anchor hold in the storms of life?" You put at the other end of the line a sail. And the hymn for that end of the line is, "I feel the winds of God today, today my sails I lift." And you ask people, where do you find yourself between the anchor and the sail? And most of us at various times of our life move along that line depending on where we're at and what's happening. But we're constantly called to be grounded in God, but grounded in the one who blows us around, who puts the wind in our sails and pushes us not always where we want to go. And so we have to ask ourselves, especially when the time gets tough, because as I said, Abram and Sarai did not have an easy day walking to Canaan, and not an easy day waiting for this promised child, and not an easy day, and their descendants did not have an easy time of it. Eventually they end up in slavery, and they get let out of slavery with Pharaoh's army chasing them, and then they wander around in the desert for 40 years. And then they have to conquer the land. And then they conquer the land, they establish kingdoms, and other people come in and conquer them and drag them off into exile. And they have to come back. And they get spread all across the globe. And a special one comes, the one we name Jesus of Nazareth, who leads his people to a new promise and a new life. And then he gets executed. and then his followers for a couple of centuries are persecuted, and then they spread across the globe. So when life isn't always easy as we seek to follow this God who blows us around, this God who says, get up and go and leave behind everything you know, how can we do that when life is hard? Unto the hills around I lift my wandering eyes. Oh, where from me will my help come? Or as the Seekers might have sung it. And yes, I know this is actually a love song, but let's just humor me for a moment. There's a new world somewhere they call the Promised Land, and you'll be there someday if you will hold my hand. I still need you there beside me, no matter what I do, for I know I'll never find another you. It's a long, long journey, so stay by my side. As I walk through the storm, you'll be my guide. If they gave me a fortune, my pleasure would be small. I could lose it all tomorrow and never mind it all, but if I should lose your love, I don't know what I'll do. We continue in the journey even when the road is hard, even when life is challenging, because we look to those hills, which may be actual hills, or they may be metaphorical, but we look around and we're grounded in the God who says, the God who keeps you will not slumber or sleep. The God who is with you will be with you from this day on and forever. Or as our writers of the New Creeds put it, we are not alone. In life, in death, in life beyond death, we are not alone. God is with us. The same God who calls us to get up and go and wander around, leave behind what we are comfortable with, explore this new thing God is doing, is the same God who promises to be with us throughout that journey. That's the only way on that long, long journey that we keep going. That we follow the leadership of the God who's sometimes coaxing, sometimes pushing, sometimes dragging while we kick and scream and resist. The same one who says to Abraham, get up and go. Who says to Jesus, get up and go. Who through Jesus says to us and to Peter and Andrew and to all those others in our story, get up and go. And your life will never be the same again. May God help us as pilgrim people. And may our life be better because of it. Amen.